Hello, welcome to the Christmas special of Answering the Wise. For the past few weeks, we have been doing sort of videos explaining topics on tech, on big companies, etc. But as we're approaching the end of the year, so just thought that it would be interesting for us to talk about ourselves and also some of the lessons that we felt about this year, which is surreal. Um, Alex is not here today because, as usual, he's going off for break to celebrate his birthday as well as Christmas, whatever. So, but today we have two colleagues at Momentum Works who you don't usually see in front of the camera. You have Brandon and you have Yoling. Both of them happen to be Malaysians, and Yoling is working in Singapore. Brandon is supposed to be in Singapore, but now stuck in Klang.
Clang.
Okay,
But
Klang. Okay, sorry for my pronunciation. Anyway, so we're going to talk about 2020, your experience, and what are sort of the thoughts and maybe sort of lessons and reflections, etc., etc. So I'm going to ask the questions, and I might be jumping in from time to time to just share a bit of stuff from my side as well. So let's start, guys. How has your 2020 been? It's almost the end of the year.
Brandon, you
ladies
want to go
first.
first? Oh,
Yo, ladies first. Yo, Lynn, take the
okay.
stage.
Okay, I'll take the stage. So, how has my 2020 been? Um, Honestly, it's been a roller coaster. We started the year not knowing what to do. Uh, Along the way, we had to make some tough decisions and make some sacrifices. I had to make some sacrifices to jump into certain projects, but came September, October. I was very. I think things started to bounce back because of the team. I'm not bragging, but it is true, um, and and I believe that we managed to come to. It's a bit boring. I think it's a cliche to come to a new normal, and I believe this year has actually brought me closer to the team. So in a sense that for me, I'm actually quite blessed for this year. It has given me time to stop running so fast and try to figure out what makes sense for the company and myself as well. So overall, I think this has been a blessing in disguise. I know quite a number of people have been in more challenging situations, which I will let Brandon talk about later. I myself, this has been a silver lining year for me. Brandon, over to you.
Cool. On the contrary, I wouldn't like phrase my year as a bad year. In fact, I think if I put it into words, I think 2020 has been a good year of growth for me. I think we all can agree that nobody saw this pandemic coming, right? I mean, we heard of news of it late 2019, but we thought, oh, it's just a Chinese thing, right? But little did we know we were in the midst of a pandemic. So I was, before joining Momentum Works, I'm quite a newbie in the space, what, 5, 6 months in now, but doing very good. Previously, I was doing business development in a large tech company, not gonna name names, but I don't think it's very hard to find. Um, and had a good job there, stable job, growing my career, starting off right, like, and you're in this like top three biggest tech company in the world. Things are going great. Um, but then COVID hit, right? And so everyone started working from home. I guess we had to adjust to that. But more than that, while doing my job, essentially, I knew I wasn't going to stay here for a long time. I knew this wasn't what I wanted to do, sitting at a desk, sort of growing IT sales per se. And so, funnily enough, an interesting story to segue a bit. That's during my job. Part of my job previously was sort of to look out or research on different companies in the sector, and somehow I found out I found Momentum Works during my job, and I thought it looked pretty interesting. That's when I reached out to Yorlin. Did we have a chat, Yorlin, right? Like in Malaysia, like in Feb before the whole thing hit, or was it? I think it was late December. I think it was late
Uh,
2019 where we had a chat.
yeah, we had a chat in a coffee shop.
Yeah, and it was during my working hours. Don't tell my previous employer, but I skipped work to have the chat. But anyway, fast forward then, move from that company. Of course, even during COVID to Momentum Works, I think it was a huge jump for me. Huge risk. I'm not much of a risk taker, I would think. That has improved, I think. Now joining Momentum Works, everything seems like a risk. Uh, but it's a beautiful experience. So yeah, I think but saying that, I want to be mindful and respectful of the other people that we'll be talking about, or even my experience that maybe we'll go into a bit later. Of course, not I mean, it's not comparable to other people who has had it tough. I think the past year. But it has been a good year for me, I would say. Productive and interesting year comparative to the rest. A year of growth, good new challenges. Yeah, an exciting year. Jangan, what about you? How was your year?
Uh, so first, I probably spent 200-300 hours less in the Jakarta traffic. So, yeah, I think So basically, last year was how would I say, hectic year. I counted the number of trips I did between Singapore and Jakarta, and I counted 33 times, and that would equate to about like 2 hours each journey from Jakarta airport to the city, and 2 hours back. So, and if you add all the time spent on the plane, waiting to clear customs, um, sort of going to the airport in Singapore, etc., and everything else together is actually lots of time spent. And this year, this was not existent, and of course, lots of things were delayed, so things could not happen. You could not meet people, and projects have to sort of be adjourned for a few months sometimes, and and documents you previously signed face to face now have to be sent across borders for different signatures, and sometimes people forget to attach a stamp, and you have to do the same thing again, etc., etc. So the whole year is very different, and honestly, people say that it's good or it's bad, but I mean, it really depends on which time of the year, and sometimes I feel that is a blessing not having to travel. But at other times, I would feel that, okay, shit, I should have. I mean, what if I had the ability to actually just fly there and solve that problem right now? So instead of having to sort of coordinate a lot over phone calls and stuff. So it's definitely a new experience, and I think one thing I appreciate is a lot of time at home, a lot of time to take a walk in a city that I have been living in but didn't have a chance to explore. A lot of time to reflect. I hope I would read more books, but I actually worked more. So I mean, you don't have the airplane, which isolates you from everything. You can concentrate on like reading. You can concentrate on thinking, and lots of times I actually got clarity when I was taking a plane. So you write things down, you take notes, and when you get tired, you just put on flip up the window shield, just look out the clouds, and I kind of miss that feeling. But on the other hand, it is what it is. So I'm glad that,
you know, Janggan, there's actually, you can actually take the flight to nowhere
no, that was cancelled.
if you want.
That was cancelled.
Oh, was it? Oh.
Yeah,
Such a first world problem to solve. Take a flight to nowhere.
Yeah. I think yeah.
And unfortunately, mixed reality is not that mature yet. Otherwise, everybody will buy this. I don't know, projection glass that whatever that will be project on a retina or something. But anyway, so yeah, it's what it is, and glad that at the end of the year things are becoming better. So that's me. Next question for you guys. I think this is something I had like this year. I had a lot more catch ups with people. Last year I had lots of meetings, but this year I had lots more catch ups, if you know what I mean. So it's interesting that that by and large, the people I'm meeting, the people I'm seeing, the people I'm sort of having calls with, initially there was lots of jitters because people didn't know what would happen. But towards the second half of the year, especially if you are not in a dire situation that you need to do some salvage, otherwise I think people are pretty calm. I said, okay, it gives me time to reflect, etc., etc. So is that what you see as well? And how do you see this? Like, a year almost for many people, it's like a pause, and you can't move forward fast.
Mm. Maybe let me take that. Okay, so just to set the context for this year, right? I was telling you guys that I spent about almost half a year on a project with a commercial company. So I had I could see what was going on, and then I also spent the later part of the year with startups, right? So what I saw was very interesting. So in the beginning of the year in a corporate, you saw that actually with the COVID and the lockdown, people became busier. So I think Zoom meetings were like one after the other, whereas in the past, at least you would have a break, breather. And for some reason, people were busier, right? But I didn't see to be very frank, I didn't really see the results. People were just running around. For maybe they thought that this would be the way forward, but I didn't feel that it was that effective. On the contrary, when I left the corporate and I was taking time to look at the startup, I realized that I think when I was talking to startups, they actually had more time to slow down, to really figure out what they want to do. Not saying slow down to the point where you could just go to the beach, relax, have a few days off, still busy, but more bandwidth to figure out what makes sense for the company. Because and I came to a realization that it could be because as a big corporate, you need to keep on rolling and running, right? And you need to justify yourself, to show that I belong here. I'm adding value. Please don't fire me, or don't cut my salary. Whereas for startups, if you keep running, and if you're running in the wrong direction, or if you're not building the right strengths, you could just be killed. So that was what I observed.
Interesting. I think like similarly to what you mentioned, the year has, let's say for corporates and startups, right? Like for corporates, it has sort of forced them in this position that they have to sort of make decisions that they've never had to make before, right? Because the pandemic's new, right? In terms of startups, they are making, to a certain degree, they are making, I wouldn't say more impactful, but because the business is still scaling, decisions that would, let's say, affect the next 2 months, right? Or the next year quite heavily. Whereas maybe on the corporate side, everything's quite steady, stable. So everybody maybe took things for granted, but because the year was different, now people have to think about how remote working would work. How do you collaborate? 5,000 headcount company. You see them moving. That's why you see a lot of corporate entities moving into digital, and they're taking it way more seriously than maybe they would have if COVID didn't happen. So I think that's an interesting take there. I think aside from the professional sort of landscape, I think at least from what I've been seeing or what I've experienced for myself, that people maybe take interactions a bit less for granted now, because last time you can meet up anytime. Like Jiang Gan said, you could just take a flight down and solve the problem. Now you don't have the avenue to do that anymore. While that is sort of contrast with the amount of Zoom meetings that we have every day, but in essence, I feel maybe people, because of this pandemic and the outlook of life has maybe changed a bit, that they see sort of interactions a bit differently, although there might be a sort of discourse because of how disconnected in that sense we are, because of this whole thing, right?
So,
True.
talking about jumping on a plane, and I had a few cases where sort of at night when I'm in Singapore and I realized, okay, tomorrow I need to be in Jakarta for a meeting at 9 o'clock. I think some of my colleagues will know. I mean, you jump on a plane at 6:40, which means that you wake up at 4 and you go to the airport, and by the time you arrive at office in Jakarta, it's like 8:30. So so the feeling was weird, right? I mean, when you were deciding to do it, you felt that okay, you're compelled to do that. I want to be there, and I want to solve this problem. But when your alarm clock goes off at 4 o'clock, you said, "Shit, what about? I mean, why did I do this to myself?" But once you are at the airport and you start see the sunlight and you get your morning coffee there, you feel fresh and you feel that okay, you are in a battle mode. You want to do something, and that's not the same for this year. And I think for lots of us, this year means that okay, wake up, okay, go out for walk, brush your teeth, whatever, do your morning chores, then go to the study or go to your living room, switch on the computer with your cats and dogs running around. And for some of you living with elderly or young kids in the family, so it's a lot more stressful. And I think we have a few colleagues who are really stressed out because of that. So that's definitely an experience. As far as the career is concerned, I think the reason why some people are calm is that they realize that the pandemic gave them an excuse to not run so fast, and also for competition point of view. I mean, of course, some industries are naturally propelled, like e-commerce, etc., etc. But for most industries, you are sort of impacted, but you are not really threatened. So people are thinking that okay, now I don't have to run for this. So let me think what I should really do. So that's a good reflection. So for example, in Singapore, so for the past few years, I think the three Chinese companies, Alipay, WeChat, and UnionPay, they did nothing. Sorry, they didn't do nothing. But for 3 years, they were running and say, "Hey, I need more merchants, and because the other guys are acquiring more merchants, I need more sort of acceptance points, etc., etc." I think the same for the ride-hailing companies, Grab, Gojek. I mean, they're compelled to compete, etc., etc. So because of COVID, and I think lots of things are because lots of things you can't do, and it's not your fault. So and your competitor can't do as well. So that actually gives you the clarity to, and also the pause to be able to focus on things which matter more, to focus on building a stronger company rather than a faster company. So I spoke with a very good friend of mine who is based in Latin America, and he told me that that guy worked in corporate for 16 years before joining startups, and I think he's been in startups for about 12 years, and he doesn't want to go back, and he can't go back. So one thing he reflected is that before in startups, they were always running. There's a goal, and once you achieve certain milestone, get more investment, you know, faster, and you should achieve another milestone, and eventually IPO or maybe acquisition. So, but this year, because this is disruptive, he said, "Oh, in a way it's good. In a way, it makes him reflect that hey, back in the corporate days, they always had scenario planning. They always had a strategy team. They always look at what makes sense before they jump into anything. So this is something that that he feels that startups should have now."
Can I say something? Yeah. I get a sense that it's reversed this year, that corporates are now running faster than ever, and that startups are actually taking it slow. In the past, when during normal times, right, corporates would be the one that were a bit slower, doing proper planning and then executing. But this year, based on my personal experience, and I could be biased, people in corporate that I talk to are just tired. They're just drained out and running nonstop. Startups or people on the startups, on the other hand, are more relaxed, like what I said just now. Yeah. So interesting observation.
I think one reason is that I think lots of things that that corporates were meant to do, but there's not much urgency to do it, because you can afford to plan it more carefully. But this year, lots of things changed, and
Yeah.
and for the companies which are impacted, you have to do things faster.
Yeah, I mean, one example was the Wirecard fiasco. Right? I mean, not related to COVID, but also because I think when Wirecard decided to was actually uncovered that it was a fraudulent company. I realized that many companies in Singapore stopped allowing Visa and credit card payment because their terminal was Wirecard. A lot of banks actually rushed out, or insurers rushed out to change their partner, and I think it was crazy. I think startups have it easier; they just switch. But big companies, because of the level of complexity and the level of tech they need to pass through and the vendors they work for, they took a much longer time, and maybe this is why they had to work much harder than startups.
So basically, all this which still have to be done, but now it's just compressed that they need to do it in a faster time.
Yeah.
Even though they have more people, but because of the amount of work that needs to be done, people end up more tired.
And because online meetings, no matter how frequent you have it, is never as good as face-to-face meetings. So maybe that's why it's taking more time to communicate, taking more time to make decisions, and more time to implement as well. So interesting observation. Yeah.
What do you think, Brandon?
Yeah, like I said, right, in the beginning, at the start, that like perhaps why they even feel more tired is because they're just not used to this pace, right? So like the pace of which like exactly like Janggan said, like they have to do things now, whereas before that it will either because like the business is so complex, they go through strategy meeting after strategy meeting, they consolidate with that department and this department, and they can afford to do that because business as usual will get things running, right? And usually what they want to do doesn't really affect business as usual or BAU that much. But unfortunately, is that a slight contention? But that's what I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
so, interestingly, perhaps what the pandemic has done, or what the year has done, or even the Wirecard fiasco or things like that, has perhaps brought a bit more agility into the corporate sort of scene, right? That maybe the onset is that they feel tired, but maybe in the long run, what this has done is introduce the sense of agility and the maybe the sense that they can do it after all, or they can be agile. You know, sometimes there is a barrier that they think they can't be agile because they have processes and they have structure. But when they're put in this position where that it's do or die almost, they realize that they can be agile, or they can at least be more agile than what they were used to.
Can I add a saying? I agree with you totally, Brandon. So there's a Chinese saying, or is it a Warren Buffett plus Chinese saying? When the tide goes back, right? Recedes. Sorry, pardon my English. When the tide recedes, then then you see the naked swimmers. I think this is from Warren Buffett. I think. Am I correct, Janggan? You're the fact checker here. Okay.
Yeah.
But there are also people that actually flow with the tide. So it seems like those that were exposed, okay, that's too bad. I think they need to start over. But it's also a good opportunity for people to pick up, to swim against the tide, or to float the tide, right? So to actually take advantage of this period and become better.
But the tide recedes. How do we take advantage?
You get back. You get taken back to shore, and then if you just stay with the tide, if it goes out again, you're in a better position to become stronger. So in a sense, it's just a methodology, but it's just like a fucking point. Right? I do think that. Am I talking? I do think that some people may feel like it's actually a bad thing that if the tide recedes, you're going with the tide, then is not a good thing. I'm more philosophical. I think it can go either way. So if the tide goes back and you go with the flow, and then you stay there, okay, then Jang, I agree with you, then it's bad. And that's what I see in many I observe in many corporates. People are not losing their jobs this year, right? But they're not improving. They're just saying that, okay, I'm here, I still have a job, I just need to work as hard or run faster. I'm good. Other people like that actually go with the tide, but then of course then find a way to get back on track, and then when the tide goes out up again or in again, you follow it. Then you become stronger.
Yeah, I think the
Mm.
I think that goes back to the point, right? I mean, so I recently read that book by Professor Scott Galloway called Post Corona. So I think one thing defining in the beginning of the book was that he said, I mean, the whole pandemic is an accelerant. So whoever who's weak gets weeded out, and whoever is strong gets stronger. So basically, it just um, accelerates what is already happening, but what will probably take 5 to 6 years to become apparent, if not for the pandemic. I think what we mentioned about people feeling tired is part of that. I mean, lots of the things that you need to do, and you now need to do it faster. And we also know some of the some of the famous companies, like some retailers we see here in Singapore, I think in other countries as well, who were already struggling, and the final blow was this year because they couldn't open their doors for a long time. So yeah, things happen, and honestly, I think for the people who the strong ones, yeah, they get propelled, and the weak ones, their business get weeded out. But it's also relief, right? Because people there can be liberated to do something else, which I think is a good thing. I think the challenge is that the challenge for a lot which are kind of stuck in the middle. You're not there. You're not here, not there, and you're not really taking any benefit. And you want. I mean, you have invested a lot, and it has not shown the benefits, and you don't see this is what this is doing for you. So that might be a bit painful, but that's also the part where I see that where people are getting to become, because they know that their competitors are not moving faster as well, especially towards the end of the year, because the first I think 3 quarters you spend lots of time reacting to what's happening, but now when things are calm a little bit, when we see the vaccine coming, the light at the end of the tunnel, and I think you are in a position to relaunch, to do things, and with different perspective.
May I say something on this? On this one, I agree. I think that the people stuck in the middle are the ones that it could be a blessing, it could be a curse, depending on how you take advantage of the situation that you're in. I've seen people being stuck in the middle in a big corporate, or be it a startup, usually a big corporate, and they use the time that they have there in the corporate, the resources there, to better themselves, and find ways to improve the knowledge, and then either go up or out, right? But I've also seen lots of people in the middle that keep saying that I'm going to be okay. I have a job. Why work so hard? Why try to be better? Just do my job, keep my head down, and then I can go home and I can knock off at 5:30. And these are the people that I would say that would be in a dangerous position, because come the next crisis, regardless what it is, they could be next, right? And the crisis could be it's not just them losing their jobs. It could also be them being given things to do that they don't like to do. It could be them not being able to find something more suitable. It could be them just being paid much lower than what they previously had. So yeah, that's what I see.
So that's interesting. So in a way, you are saying that, okay, this, I mean, even for people in the middle, this gives you an opportunity to move. But if you are still taking things as it is, and not making a move, things could become dangerous when the next crisis hits.
especially people in the middle, because people at the top, you guys are smart. You can just jump to the next opportunity. You can go to corporate, you can go to startup. You have the world at your feet. Those just starting out, you can learn. You're in a crude sense, you're cheap labor, right? People want you, be it startup or corporate. It's people in the middle that you're at crossroads every year. And which road do you take? Do you want to continue down? All right, go on. Yeah, go on, Brandon.
I think interestingly, I think the sense is because of I'm not sure if we see the top end or the bottom end and the middle end the same, but in my sense is that the problem in the middle end is the complacency factor, right? It's that a pandemic has hit and I'm still okay. That's like the most dangerous thing to happen, right? Because the people on the top end, we know that the pandemic has opened up new opportunities. You look at the food delivery e-commerce market has boomed over and it's opened up new opportunities. So at least like Jiang Gan mentioned, accelerated some of these industries. And so when you're on the top end, or if I were to put it as people who have benefited, let's say, from this whole ordeal, they are forced to, because they have all these new resources or they have all this new sort of abundance, they're put in a position to say, okay, what do I do with this, right? The people on the lower end of the stick, or maybe they have lost their jobs, or maybe who has businesses closed down, or they have to re-strategize, they're also in a position where they need to think, right? If not, their lives sort of depend on it, and therefore there's a push there. But like you mentioned, the people who are in the middle, and they can come across the spectrum, right? They could be people who are working in corporate, they could be startup founders that 2021 may be a bigger hit if they don't sort of find the footing now, right? Because I sort of lost my train of thought there, but
I agree with you. I agree with you though.
Yeah, the idea is the complacency factor, right? And that's the most dangerous. Like, it's not about. I think we also agree that it's very unfortunate that this unforeseen thing has happened. And let's say a business that has been doing really well, and it's not because of their fault that that the industries, the tourism has crashed, or the retail business has taken a hit. It's unfortunate and it's really sad, but and I don't want to be like toxic positivity and say you can find a lesson in everything. I hate those kind of things, but there is a natural push for them to restructure. Like you mentioned, the tide has receded, right? So they're brought back to the shore. So they have the chance now, to a certain extent, to restructure and to see where the tide goes next. Whereas the people who are sort of still in, I'm not really sure, I'm not really out there, I'm still okay, I'm still in the waves, enjoying, I'm not suffering, and my business is not doing very well, but I'm still fine. That's the dangerous spot to be in, probably.
Jellyfish. The jellyfish are coming for you.
Jelly.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think interesting. So end of the year, we just had this chat about something light, but also something that people can reflect on, as we have certainly been. So now the vaccine is coming, and I think for many countries, you start receiving the vaccine at the end of the year. Things will start going back to normal, and people will probably start flying, maybe not as frequent as they used to do. So more opportunities that after a year of whether it's firefighting, whether it's accelerated sort of response to crisis, or whether it's just a time for reflection. But certainly, I think everybody's looking forward to 2021.
And also stay tuned to our predictions, which we will pull out our crystal ball to see what 2021 looks like in our eyes. I think we did not bad for 2020. I think we're in the midst of reviewing. Of course, COVID-19 wasn't, part of our 10 things that would happen, but it's been going. Our predictions still pretty solid, I think, as we're building to the next year's predictions. That would be quite exciting to see.
Exciting, very exciting.
And you have friends, cousins, neighbors who are looking for a more exciting job. Just shut up, any of us.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, and have a great festive season.
Merry Christmas.
Happy holidays, everyone.
Happy New Year.
Bye.
Bye.